రైట్ ఇక కరోనా వైరస్ వ్యాక్సిన్ కి సంబంధించి డాక్టర్ సౌమ్య మాట్లాడుతున్నారు లైవ్ ద్వారా చూద్దాం.
Will there be enough vials in which you put the vaccine? You know, we really haven't had this scale of expansion or need for vials ever before. So for even the back-end support manufacturers to be able to supply materials is still going to be a challenge, something that we'll have to see, so such that they are not allocating to the highest bidder, so to speak, right? But the one infrastructure that's common to all of us is fill-finish infrastructure, because majority of these vaccines, barring a few which are nasal sprays or attempting to be nasal sprays, they're all injectables. And creating that additional fill-finish infrastructure right now will enable us to deliver those 8 billion doses in the most rapid fashion possible, because that will be rate limiting at one point, where the drug substance can be scaled, but you won't be able to fill it in vials. So from a manufacturing perspective, we're trying to do everything we can by looking at 20-dose presentation, 30-dose, having preservatives that, you know, will take us through a much larger vial. But what I've been, you know, trying to advocate for, particularly with DBT and such, including CEPI, is to say create a fund where people can access money to expand their fill-finish infrastructure. And why is this a good thing? There's no downside risk. Even if your vaccine candidate doesn't work, you can ensure that that infrastructure is deployed for whichever vaccine candidate that works. So, you know, it's not a win or lose situation for the government to make a bet on. But these are very critical to be able to rapidly scale. And the third thing and very important factor is availability of trained manpower. Right now, we envisioned creating an additional 500 jobs within the next 6 months. But we really need skilled workforce, and that's a long-term thing as well. But these three things will enable us to rapidly scale.
Thank you, Mahima. In fact, I think it's not a zero-sum game, is what Mahima says from the government perspective. Krishna, before we get to Dr. Swaminathan, who will possibly join us a bit. She's gone? Okay. Before we go to her, I think it looks like she's left us. But equitable distribution. I know you're on the verge of phase 3, possibly end of this month. So since we are looking at you with a great deal of optimism, how do we ensure as a country, 1.3 billion people, we know your abilities to manufacture, we know that there is always a limitation, certain cap on how much you can manufacture. How do we ensure that this equitable distribution just doesn't remain in the paper and, like Mahima said, the highest bidder? Because I've heard you in other webinars where you said, you know, Chinese government came in and blocked the entire South American market on some other vaccine development process. How do we ensure that such a thing does not happen, and how do we ensure Hyderabad, being the vaccine capital of the world, how do we ensure we assert our position? How do we ensure we not only supply for India, we also manufacture and supply to the rest of the world in a very equitable fashion? How do we do that?
I just want to blame the government for that matter, honestly. The reason is the government is looking at it more on a health point of view, COVID problem. But I consider it's the economic point of view. If somebody is starving with the loss of a job and starving, he is going to die. That's much worse. And the WHO and the Indian government, the drug controller, looks at what is 1% adverse reactions and all that. But they're not looking at it. How do we deploy faster? It is possible. Technology now, new technologies, and all the manufacturers, we have all the quality control systems in place. Nothing that we are short circuit anything. But I think government has to sit in the central government and call the manufacturers. Tell me what you want. Each one they're working in compartmental. They say we are fast track, we are fast track. But all put together, no fast track in the country. So literally, it is isolation. Each one want to look at microscope. How come this Indian company can develop this COVID vaccine? Let me look at it. If it comes from US, no scrutiny, much. But I think that system has to be put now. Our Chief Minister has to put a pressure on the Prime Minister's office. Something the drug controller and DBT, all of them, Principal Secretary should stick together, call the manufacturers, quick strategy discussion and how do we execute. There must be one leader there should be executed. If it is done, honestly I'm telling you, all the 4 manufacturers, 3 from here, Serum, can feed the entire 1.2 billion. Coming to affordability, trust me, I'm telling you, we are lesser than water bottle cost of vaccine. so water bottle is more expensive.
I'm sure the vaccine wouldn't be as much, 330 ml.
So this is 5 times more expensive than your vaccine. So we are really affordable. I think we are the lowest in the world. And the best quality. Trust me, I'm telling you. Our quality of a vaccine, Indian manufacturers' quality of vaccine, and GSK and Sanofi is exactly same. Please keep in mind, we follow exactly WHO, TRS, and US FDA guidelines. Nothing less. People think Indian vaccine means something low quality. No, all are same quality. There's only one quality in vaccine field. There's no 2 quality. So only one quality, be assured of that. And I think, there's some strategy discussion missing, leadership is missing in Delhi to take on, quickly sit together and put a strategy. Chinese, what they've done, they've given $1 billion to Mexico, blocking the entire Latin American market. They went to Egypt, they're blocking the African market. I really think in 5 years, the Gavi may not exist, UNICEF also may not exist. The way Chinese going and dominating the country's market. It's very scary.
Krishna, in fact, I agree with you on 2 things here. First thing I think is Government of India really needs to take all stakeholders, including the states and the manufacturers, into confidence, strategize together. Instead of saying just 1 billion doses over a period of so many days or months or so many weeks, we need to strategize on not only on vaccine distribution, but also when we go into that phase where we have to test larger population. I think we need strategies, we need to test all corners of the country, and we need to ensure that the vaccine is made available. Secondly, on Krishna's point, I can vouch for it, because I have been to his lab today on the, biosafety level 3, BSL 3 standard lab. Not just a lab, in fact, the manufacturing facility. I'm told it's one of its kind in the world, not just in India, but it's one of its kind in the world. I am delighted and thrilled, to have witnessed something of that caliber and that standard in Hyderabad. I'm sure other labs are also, labs are of BSL 3 level, but manufacturing at BSL 3 level is also something that is truly unique. So we can certainly compete in terms of quality, in terms of cost, in terms of scale with everybody else in the world. So I also agree with you on the fact that we need to possibly position ourselves, brand ourselves, and talk up in the sense of Government of India and the state governments promoting you and encouraging the local manufacturers. Now, Anand, on this issue of equitable distribution, I've heard Prime Minister Modi talk about how we should possibly start planning now to distribute this vaccine to the large population of our country. What are your thoughts? And then we go to final comments from each of you.
As you rightly said, we need to ponder on this. It's not just developing a vaccine, and then how do we address this 1 billion population who have to be immunized, because from a child to a senior citizen has to be given this vaccine. So in terms of,